Alright, welcome back to Mutton Chop Gaming. I'm the Mutton Chop Gamer, my voice is back, so now we're going to continue the Breaking In the PS4 Marathon. Today we're going to be looking at one of the launch titles, Knack. Now, Knack is one of those games that didn't get a lot of positive reviews, and it didn't get a lot of negative reviews. It just kind of zipped off the radar as soon as it came out. Of course, I attribute that to maybe some of the more popular games of franchises that already exist, but thing is, Knack looks like my cup of tea. So, is it really as mediocre as everything is made out to be? Well, let's take a look. Before I even begin the real review, developers, please take my ideas. See, it's obvious with story elements that they want to make sequels to this game. And this game has so much missed potential that I feel it necessary to share my ideas in this review for possible use. The story has humans and goblins fighting each other in a territorial war, partly for land and partly for relics. Relics are little bits and pieces from an old civilization that, once the humans found, they were able to advance fast in all kinds of technology. Wait, when did I start playing Mass Effect? These relics are also used as a source of energy, so think of them like oil, maybe? I don't know. Anyhow, the goblins have somehow gotten fancy weapons to destroy a human settlement and take their enormous cache of relics. A team of politicians, scientists, and industrialists meet together to figure out what to do. Victor, who is obviously not a nice guy because of the beard, purple clothing, and his name is Victor, agrees to have his combat robots help with a counterattack. Dr. Vargas and his assistant Lucas then decide to show off their newest creation from relics. A living, breathing... Wait, can he breathe if he has no need to take in air? Golem made of relics, Knack, who has the ability to take in relics to make himself become a massive creature. Victor, for some reason, hates Knack and decides to test him. If Knack can beat up a bunch of security robots, Knack will be allowed in. Because you play as Knack, he obviously wins. Ryder, Lucas's adventurous uncle, agrees to help everyone who volunteered out into the land, and they go to fight some goblins. As the story goes on, we learn more about how not nice Victor is, and the story just starts getting confused for me. There's a character who I guess is Victor's love interest that could easily be written out. Knack takes orders without question. Goblins are two-dimensional monsters that want to fight for the sake of fighting. But how Victor's storyline unfolds is just dumb. This part isn't really a spoiler, believe it or not, because I'd hardly call it a twist or an ending to a story arc. He turns out to be a greedy industrialist who kidnaps Lucas just to get Vargas and Knack to come to his house to see giant relics, which Knack might be the key to opening the door that holds a lot more of them, and yet this whole time, Victor wants to destroy Knack. Newsflash, Victor! Knack's personality seems to be obey and protect Lucas and Vargas. You could have just told Vargas, hey, there's a big door with a bunch of relics behind it, and Knack may be able to open it. And Vargas, loving to build stuff involving relics, would have said, heck yeah, let's go! I know he'd have said it because they go to find that door after they discover Victor's plans anyway! Not that Knack would have wanted to help you after you kidnapped Lucas. There really was no need for that. All it did was give us stealth Knack made of crystals and a fancy mansion level. One major problem that I find is that the goblins are more fascinating than the humans. It's revealed that they're attacking human settlements in retaliation for their humiliation in the Crystal War, which forced goblins from big, beautiful cities into the wilderness. I like them more than the humans, but the game expects me to side with the humans just because I'm a human. Earth to game, writers! Just because I'm human doesn't mean I automatically want to side with the humans in a game. I've met a human or two in my lifetime, and a good number of them suck. I think my biggest problem is how bland Knack is. He's shown to be clever, and he has the capacity to make his own decisions, but he never does. We even know that he has a sense of morality when a goblin asks why he sides with the humans when he has an aptitude for destruction. He says that he destroys things not because he wants to, but because he accidentally does it when he gets big, and that what goblins do is just evil. The issue is that he doesn't do anything good of his own choice, but out of loyalty to Vargas and Lucas. Heck, he says that he isn't there to think about the plans, just to execute them. You are a living, breathing creation, Knack. You think, therefore you are. You have the capacity for thought and emotion other than blandly protecting your creators like a dog on a leash. In terms of aesthetic design, it ranges from sort of good to sort of bad. I love the visual style and design, if a bit rocky. No, literally, a good chunk of the game takes place in rocky wilderness. I wish we had gotten less levels about caves, cliffs, and mountains, and more in the forest or the city. The characters are bright, colorful, and cartoony, which, as many of you know, is something I really love in a video game. The music is bland. Yes, they try to make it sound like you're going on a grand adventure! But the issue is that it uses musical cliches with brass instruments to try to make the game feel as big as Knack can get. And it fails miserably at it because you recognize those cliches. Voice acting isn't too great either. No matter Knack's height, he keeps the same deep voice. I think getting a few different voices would have been better. The voice acting for every other character is pretty basic. No Oscar-worthy performances here. Sound effects, on the other hand, are wonderful! They're all appropriately deep or high-pitched, and even the plinks from the relics you hear coming from the PS4 controller serve the purpose of making you feel like Knack. However, these relics can cause visual problems. With so many particles, the PS4 had noticeable slowdown. This meant that when the game was at its most fun while Knack was huge, it suffered the most visually. You don't just collect relics, though. You can also bring in several different bits to alter your form, from ice to metal, and each has its own strengths and weaknesses. Overall, Knack, the game, not the character, is pretty basic in gameplay. You use Knack, the character, not the game, to solve puzzles and beat up enemies. Almost every level starts out small, with small enemies, but as you collect relics or bits, Knack gets bigger. However, because the levels and enemies get bigger as well, the only noticeable difference is that Knack feels slower. Puzzles are very simple. They usually get down to find a button, press the button, move on with a story. And while that may sound like a guilty pleasure of mine, at least that one, it's more about timing to press the button than return to progress quickly. Here, it's the button pretty much right next to the door. Knack also feels like a glass cannon. While you feel the impact of him taking hits, he can't take too many hits himself. This gives a bit of a ludonarrative dissonance because even after taking a shot to his chest, Knack is able to get back up again. In the cutscenes, he's shown to be nearly indestructible. In gameplay, however, he can't exactly do that when the enemies have been given firepower that apparently the story writers were unaware of. Heck, in cutscenes, he can re-piece himself together with those bits that were knocked off of him. Why can't he do that in gameplay? Goblins, humans, robots, and even bugs are able to take down Knack after only a few hits. And these enemies do very nicely, but you don't have to think too hard when in battle. The most you have to think about is, what order do I kill these guys in to take the least amount of damage to lose the least amount of relics? Not that the number of relics you have matters too much. It would seem that Knack tries to keep himself huge after losing relics as battle damage by using electricity to keep the relics connected to his spherical, glowing, Iron Man-styled heart. And you only get significant growth when the game tells you that you can grow bigger. Relics not only increase your health bar, but increase your overall size. However, when you get hit and lose relics, the health bar doesn't shrink, you just lose health points based on that bar. And dying has no real consequence. If you die, you get a full health bar, but your sunstone energy doesn't come back for some arbitrary reason. You break sunstones to fill that sunstone energy, but you barely get any energy when you break a crystal, so you'll never want to use the energy, and you'll just want to save it for the boss fights. You can shoot energy blasts, have a giant smash attack, and even a tornado. My question is this: if there are 4 different buttons you could hit to use the 4 different powers, why do you only allow 3 different powers? Why not one that heals Knack? What's that? There's an upgrade gadget that lets you get relics when health is low from sunstones? Well, guess what? The upgrade system is also horrible. You have different gadgets and forms you can get, but guess what? They were implemented completely wrong. Instead of collecting a few parts that could be used to make many machines in different combinations, like the Bayonetta lollipop system, you find mandatory parts to unlock them, and they're not exactly easy to find. I ended up beating the game without completing a single gadget or alternate form for Knack. And for a game about a character whose whole purpose is to grow, making these upgrades too difficult was a terrible choice. There is also a co-op mode where player 2 takes control of what looks like Knack, if he were made by Victor for the sake of defeating the original. He gets power and health from the metal of defeated enemies, but there's no explanation for him. They didn't even give him a name! It could have easily been named Nick! It would have been Knick-Knack, you paddywhack! Why won't you throw me a bone? I just want to go home. But the co-op was pretty fun, with both players having different fighting styles and goals for collecting stuff. I think I was expecting a Sonic the Hedgehog meets Katamari Damacy style rings game, where if you get hit, you might be able to reclaim relics, and your size will fluctuate to show your health instead of having a health bar. You would also collect relics from a bunch of stuff around the stage, enemies or environmental bits alike, letting you change size more fluidly. Yes, this may have made some parts more easier or harder, but it would have been like old FPSs, where the designers would have to make sure to give you enough health to be prepared for harder sections. And yes, some parts you may seem overpowered for, but considering a big part of the advertising was showing just how big Knack could get, I want to get that huge, just mowing down my enemies until they're nothing but dust that fades off the screen to save enough RAM to support Knack's particles. Heck, another idea would have been to let you take in powers from your defeated enemies, where you get one shot based on that enemy's weapon. A tank, you shoot one missile. Archer, you shoot one arrow. Goo shooter, you can shoot out goo. It would have been amazing. It's not MOM bad, or even Force Unleashed bad. It's just shallow compared to what it could have been. I don't know if we'll get a sequel to Knack, but I honestly would love it if the developers made something along the lines I've spoken of here, rather than sniffing glue or whatever it is they're doing. I'm gonna go ahead and give this game a C-. There is so much missed potential. It could have been the introduction to an amazing series. And it could have been that great introduction a new series needs. And honestly, I would like there to be more sequels taking the ideas in this video. But sadly, it probably isn't going to happen. Alright, that's it. And I'll see you all next week when we continue the Breaking in the PS4 Marathon.